This week, Labor announced its NBN policy. 3 years ago, they were offering to deliver fibre to 93% of homes and businesses across Australia. Now they'll commit to lay fibre to just 39%. A short time ago, I was joined by the Communications Minister, Mitch, Fifield, and the Opposition's Communications spokesman, Clare. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good evening.
I want to start by asking you both the same question we put to our viewers, which is, do the benefits of a fibre to the home broadband network outweigh the costs? I'll have an answer from you first, Minister.
Well, our objective is to get superfast broadband to Australians as fast as we possibly can. And as you know, our objective is to have that completed by 2020. We're pursuing a multi-technology mix, which is one of the reasons why we're able to get the NBN rolled out faster than our political opponents. So I appreciate the debate about fibre to the premises, but one of the reasons why we're able to move so much faster is because fibre to the premises involves the digging up of people's driveways, and fibre to the premises is about twice as costly per premises to install compared to fibre to the node. So through fibre to the node, we're going to have speeds of up to 100 megabits per second. We're going to have, as we're experiencing at the moment, the average download speeds are about 70 megabits per second. So you can have really good speeds with fibre to the node, and you don't have to blow the bank to do it, and you don't have to dig up people's driveways.
Clare, are the benefits of fibre so indisputable that a future Australian government should build a fibre to the home network regardless of the cost of doing so?
All of the research, whether it's from the World Bank or whether it's from KPMG here in Australia, shows that fast broadband creates jobs. It's why New Zealand is going from fibre to the node to fibre to the home. It's why AT&T in the United States, who built a fibre to the node network, are now going back and building a fibre to the home network, because Australians, Americans like Australians, are demanding faster broadband, and we know that fast broadband is as important to many businesses today as electricity is.
During the 2013 election campaign, the then Labor Communications Minister Anthony Albanese told Lateline the government should do it once, do it right, and do it with fibre. It was a popular policy. Why have you abandoned it?
Well, I've made it clear that we can't click our fingers and go right back to 2013. Over the last 3 years, Malcolm Turnbull spent $15 billion of taxpayers' money building this second-rate version of the NBN. There's around about 500,000 homes that have fibre to the node already, and about 1.3 million homes where they're building fibre to the node now. So we can't go back and erase all of that. It's hard to put Humpty Dumpty back together. But what we can do is, where they haven't built fibre to the node yet, we can build fibre to the premises. Well, and I've said that part of our plan is making sure that we roll out more fibre to those areas where Malcolm Turnbull hasn't got there yet and built the copper version of the NBN. But there are parts of Australia where they have built this second-rate, slower copper version of the NBN, and Infrastructure Australia will provide us with advice on how we go back and fix those areas up.
Mitch Fifield, how many Australians will get fibre to the home under your plan?
Well, under our plan, there's about, I think it's 38% of people who will get HFC. There's about 38% of people who will get fibre to the node, and about 20% of people who will get fibre to the premises. But
can you translate that to homes and businesses? How many?
Oh, look, you're talking a couple of million for fibre to the premises. But I do have to make the point, and this is one of comparison, that in the last month alone, we connected 61,000 premises to the NBN. That's people who are paying, their customers. Labor, over 6 years in government, only connected 51,000 premises. So we did 10,000 more premises in 1 month than Labor did in their whole period of office. So it's one of the reasons why we're so determined to pursue this multi-technology approach, is because we want to get the NBN out to people. You don't get the full national macroeconomic benefits of the NBN until the whole nation is connected. Now, Jason's proposal is to have people wait at least 2 years longer and to pay about $8 billion more. And I know Jason will come back to the issue of speed. And can I just point out, of the 1 million people who are currently customers of NBN, 83% of them are opting for speeds of 25 megabits per second or less.
It's important for people to understand how the cost of the NBN is made up. It's made up of two things. First, there's the taxpayers' investment, which is $29.5 billion, and then there's the private sector investment, which is in the order of $26 billion as well. Now, what we've said with our plan to roll out fibre to up to 2 million more homes and businesses is that the capital cost of that is more, about $3.4 billion, but the operating cost of operating more fibre is less because you don't have that cost that comes with fixing the old Telstra copper or the electricity bills that come with running those 30,000 nodes that Malcolm Turnbull and Mitch want to build. The other part of this is the internal rate of return, because by doing this, we actually increase the return back to the taxpayers. What's often forgotten here is that this is a business we're developing that creates revenue back to the Australian taxpayers. When Malcolm Turnbull first got this job, the internal rate of return was 7.1%. It's dropped to now 2.7%. Of all the failures and mistakes Malcolm Turnbull's made, with doubling the cost of it, doubling the
Mitch
time,
Fifield is
the
right,
internal
but you
rate of
didn't have
return
very
is
many
probably the worst.
You actually didn't have so many people signed up, so
Well, can I
there
go to
weren't
that
many
point? Can I
people
go to that
paying.
point,
But
Emma?
No, I'll stop you there for a moment because there's a lot of ground to cover. Mitch Fifield, just to Jason Clare's point, in hindsight, was it a mistake to continue to use copper in your network, given the costs involved in maintaining that ageing technology? And you also have to provide electricity to nodes that Labor's plan doesn't need to price in.
Well, in terms of electricity to the nodes that Labor don't have to price in, Jason says that will save $60 million a year. You don't cover $8 billion of additional capital expenditure through $60 million a year savings in power to the nodes.
Well, it's not $8 billion, Mitch. It's not $8 billion. You're misleading the Australian public with that figure, because you know as well as I do that in your corporate plan, the cost of your project is $46 billion to $56 billion.
But
now
with
you've
respect,
suddenly plapped out this number.
Let me ask you both the same question on this particular point. I have to ask you both whether the Australian public should trust either of you, given 3 years ago in this very studio, your side, Mitch Fifield, said that your whole project would cost $29.5 billion, and Jason Clare, Labor said it would cost $37.4 billion.
Emma,
you're both out enormously.
Look, we're operating on the basis of the information that we had in opposition. When we came into government, we commissioned a strategic review, and it found that NBN and the previous Labor government did not have a clue how much building the NBN was actually costing. The previous government thought that to hook up each premises cost $2,400. Turned out it cost about double that. With fibre to the node, we're able to roll it out at about half the price per premises. So talk from Jason of costs having been blown out are completely wrong. Jason says...
Mitch, you promised that it would all be done this year. You promised it would be done this year.
Let's get a quick response from you, Jason Clare.
This is the extraordinary thing. Malcolm Turnbull 3 years ago said everyone in Australia would have the NBN this year. Less than 20% of Australia has access to the NBN right now. So what Mitch is saying, he's trying to rewrite history here. They promised it would be all done this year, and it hasn't been done. The strategic review that Mitch talks about said that fibre to the node would cost $600 a house. We now know that's nonsense. It's gone up almost triple that to $1,600 a house. They said they'd have 2.61 million homes connected to HFC this year. Not one house has been connected to that network yet. The first one, I think Mitch will tell us, is next week. So this claim that they're on track is just nonsense. And at the same time, we've gone from 30th in the world to 60th in the world for internet speeds.
In the interest of equal time... Yes, I will give you equal time, but I want to leave that point there because I want to move on. Mitch Fifield, there does seem to be a contradiction at the heart of your industry policy. On the one hand, the Coalition's vision for Australia is an innovation nation with smart, agile cities, but then you opt for a second-rate NBN network that will only ever deliver to the bulk of Australians up to 100 megabits of download speeds.
Well, Emma, you shouldn't buy Labor's line that it's a second-rate system. It's a system that will get to Australians many years.
Well, if we take it that the first rate is fibre all the way to the homes and businesses.
Well, if you look internationally, if you look at the United States, if you look at Germany, they're not fibre obsessed as Labor are.
France
they're not taking the approach.
Says 60% of households will have fibre to every home and business premises by 2018.
if you look at most European countries, they pursue a multi-technology mix that will see the NBN rolled out much sooner to Australians. Well, no, it's not about it's about speeds, but it's about speeds. It's about cost to the taxpayer, and it's also about getting the NBN out to Australians as soon as possible.
Christopher Pyne, just the other night on the Q&A program, said that Australians didn't need the speeds that Labor is offering.
Well, again, that's just sort of myopic, short-term, Mr Magoo type vision from the Liberal Party. But I tell you this, anyone who tells you that they know exactly what everything the NBN is going to be used for in the future is just guessing. If you go back 100 years, what was electricity for when it was first installed in people's homes? It was for the lights. Now, if I ask you to write a list of everything we use electricity for, it'll go on for pages and pages and pages. The NBN is exactly the same. What we use it for today is very different to what we use it for in 5, 10 or 15 years' time.
A final comment, Mitch Fifield. The NBN has become a big issue in the seat of New England, where Tony Windsor says he was promised a commitment by the Julia Gillard Labor government to get the network rolled out in Tamworth, but that never happened because Labor, of course, lost government. Are you concerned your policy may well cost you your Deputy Prime Minister's seat?
No, I'm very confident that the people of New England will return Barnaby Joyce. He's a fierce advocate for that region. But I do, and this is directly related to the question, I do have to point out that when Labor left office, their own target said that they were meant to have 1 million people hooked up to the NBN. They only had 51,000 people hooked up to the NBN. They missed their 2013 target by 85%. So the reason why Tony Windsor might be saying that his electorate doesn't have NBN is not true. It's not because of this government. It's because of the absolute mess that we inherited from the other side. We've been seeking to repair that, and we're rolling out the NBN at a pace. And what is absolutely certain is that if Jason Clare becomes the Communications Minister and Bill Shorten Prime Minister, Australians will be waiting years longer for the NBN. That's the truth. It's going to cost more and take longer under Labor.
Jason Clare, and you would have to admit, Jason Clare, a lot of Labor voters will be bitterly disappointed in your announcement this week, given you were promising 3 years ago 93% of homes would have, and businesses, 93% of them would have fibre to their premises. Now only 39%.
Emma, I feel sorry for Mitch because he's been thrown a hospital pass by Malcolm Turnbull. Malcolm Turnbull is the one who has stuffed this up.
I want you to answer my question, please.
And on New England specifically, there's a big difference here. If Labor wins the election, places like Tamworth get fibre to the premises. If Mitch and Malcolm and Barnaby win the election, then Tamworth gets left with the second-rate, slower version of the NBN. We made a commitment this week that we'd roll out fibre to up to 2 million more Australian homes and businesses to help set us up. 93%, though. You can't click your fingers and undo the mess that Mitch and Malcolm have made overnight. But if Labor is elected, we'll get to work on that.
Jason Clare, Mitch Fifield, we're out of time. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emma.